Imagine ancient civilizations mastering nanotechnology, seismographs, and flying machines long before we dreamed possible. What if our ancestors outsmarted us all? These mind-bending inventions shatter history's lies, baffle experts even now. Ready to question everything you thought you knew? Over the years, we've uncovered numerous ancient inventions that continue to baffle modern experts. For instance, you may be surprised to learn that ancient civilizations once possessed knowledge of nanotechnology. They also developed a seismograph centuries before the modern era, and even had an understanding of flying machines and napalm. These remarkable inventions are truly astonishing and remain unsolved mysteries to this day. In this video, we'll explore some of the most extraordinary ancient inventions and artifacts that are still shrouded in mystery. But before we get started, please like and subscribe so you don't miss out on our future content. Beneath the dense canopy of Mexico's Palenque National Park, a centuries-old enigma lay dormant within the ruins of the mighty Maya civilization. In 1994, a young archaeologist noticed a seemingly insignificant crack in a stone stairway during routine maintenance. This narrow fissure was more than just a breach in ancient stonework. It was a gateway to one of the most astonishing archaeological discoveries of the century, the tomb of the Red Queen. The Maya, renowned for their advanced astronomy, architectural brilliance, and complex social structure, also held a deep reverence for death and its sacred rituals. Palenque, once a thriving hub of Maya power, was a place where the dead, especially those of noble birth, were buried with elaborate ceremony. Their graves became vaults, not only of treasure, but of unresolved mysteries. As the archaeologist's flashlight pierced the dark, narrow corridor, an ancient stillness seemed to hang in the air. The passage led to a labyrinth of stone, culminating in 3 chambers. 2 stood silent, holding rituals lost to time, but the 3rd chamber held the heart of the discovery. After painstakingly breaching a sealed threshold, the team was met with a breathtaking scene. A perfectly preserved tomb, almost untouched by the passage of time. At the center was a massive stone sarcophagus, nearly 8 feet long. Opening it took 14 grueling hours. Inside lay a noblewoman, silently wading through the centuries, adorned with jade and pearls, and flanked by obsidian blades. Her resting place was drenched in a vivid red, the result of ground cinnabar dusted over every surface. This striking hue earned her the name the Red Queen. Nearby, the remains of 2 sacrificed attendants, a woman in her early 30s and a boy of about 11, added layers of solemnity and intrigue. The Red Queen, estimated to be around 60 at the time of her death, was undoubtedly a figure of great status, likely a member of the ruling elite. Yet her true identity remains a mystery. Was she a queen, a consort, or a powerful high priestess? Was she connected by blood to the royal Maya lineage? This puzzle, etched into the fabric of history, continues to spark scholarly debate to this day. Located in the Peloponnese region of southern Greece, the ancient city of Pavlopitri now lies about 4 meters beneath the sea. It is considered one of the world's oldest known underwater cities, estimated to be nearly 5,000 years old, dating back to around 2,800 to 2000 BC. Rising sea levels and a series of powerful earthquakes caused Pavlopitri to sink beneath the waves around 1000 BC. Some believe the city may have even inspired the legendary tale of Atlantis, the fabled lost city of myth. Pavlopitri was first discovered in 1967 by oceanographer Nicholas Fleming and later surveyed by a team of archaeologists from the University of Cambridge. Their findings revealed a remarkably well-planned city, complete with straight roads, 2-story houses with gardens, and an incredibly complex water management system. In 2009, the University of Nottingham launched a 5-year project using robotics, advanced graphics, and 3D sonar mapping to chart the entire site. These efforts yielded incredible results. Thousands of ancient artifacts were uncovered, providing invaluable insights into daily life. Archaeologists discovered ceramics dating back to the end of the Stone Age, suggesting the city existed during the same era as the famous Greek epic, the Iliad. They also found a monumental structure resembling a megaron, indicating that members of the elite may have once lived there. Historians believe Pavlo Petri served as a bustling center of trade for both the Minoan and Mycenaean civilizations. Today, what remains of Pavlo Petri faces numerous threats. Pollution, wave erosion, and a lack of protection all pose serious risks to the ancient ruins. Despite these challenges, Pavlo Petri continues to serve as a powerful source of inspiration for the enduring modern myth of Atlantis. This is the tomb of Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of the Qin dynasty. He was a ruler so powerful that his final resting place became an architectural marvel designed to replicate an entire city. Guarded by the legendary Terracotta Army, this tomb has fascinated historians and explorers for centuries. Yet beneath its surface lies a story steeped in irony and mystery. The Qin dynasty, which began around 220 BCE, unified China under a single formidable regime. Emperor Qin Shi Huang, revered almost as a divine figure, commissioned a burial complex of unprecedented scale, a project that took 38 years to complete. The tomb's layout was conceived as a miniature version of the capital, symbolizing his dominion even in death. The mausoleum itself is a wonder, with its sprawling necropolis and awe-inspiring terracotta army. Each soldier is uniquely crafted and stands an eternal guard over their emperor. But beneath these visible marvels lies a tale laced with bitterness and mystery. Chinese historian Sima Qian, writing a century after the emperor's reign, documented the tomb's construction. He revealed that Mercury was used to represent the rivers and seas of the emperor's empire. Ironically, this very element, revered for its mystical properties, is believed to have caused the emperor's death as he consumed mercury-infused elixirs in his desperate pursuit of immortality. Sima Qian's writings also unveiled chilling details about the tomb's lethal defenses, traps designed to thwart would-be robbers. Accounts speak of preloaded crossbows and other concealed dangers, blending historical plausibility with legendary embellishment. These haunting features have kept speculation about the tomb alive for generations. Despite the allure of its secrets, most of the tomb remains unexcavated. Modern archaeologists proceed with great caution, not only due to the potential hazards, but also because current technology may be insufficient to preserve the fragile artifacts within. As a result, the tomb is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, studied primarily from the surface and protected from invasive exploration. As we reflect on the colossal effort behind the Terracotta Army, we can't help but wonder what other secrets lie sealed within this ancient marvel. In the shadows of World War II, on the verdant fields owned by Edith Pretty, stood two seemingly unremarkable mounds. Captivated by local folklore, Pretty gave permission to Basil Brown, a self-taught archaeologist, to excavate the site. What he uncovered in 1938 would astonish the world. Brown's spade struck the ghostly remains of a great ship. Its wooden frame had long since decayed, leaving only a faint impression in the sandy soil. This was no ordinary vessel. It was a royal burial ship, nearly 90 feet in length, serving as the final resting place of an Anglo-Saxon king. Within the hull lay a treasure trove of such exquisite craftsmanship and diversity that it challenged everything historians thought they knew about the so-called Dark Ages. Among the artifacts was a delicately shaped lyre, a sword and shield, emblems of power and protection, and a Byzantine silver dish, evidence of a world connected through trade and diplomacy far beyond England's shores. Amid these treasures, the Sutton Hoo helmet stood out in particular. Modern historians have hailed it as one of the most remarkable creations of the early medieval period. Its intricate gold inlays and finely wrought details reveal a society steeped in artistry and cultural sophistication. The discovery of the ship, along with two Anglo-Saxon cemeteries, dating back to the 6th century, opened a window into a period once dismissed as a historical void. Today, scholars believe the individual buried within the ship was of immense importance, with Renwald, King of East Anglia, being the leading candidate for this magnificent tomb. The implications of the Sutton Hoo burial ship are profound. It confirmed that Anglo-Saxon activity in Britain during this era was vibrant and culturally rich. Basil Brown's discovery fundamentally reshaped how historians view early medieval Europe. Indonesia's legendary heritage is woven into the intricate patterns of the kris, a traditional sword whose blade ripples like a serpent. Revered for its ability to pierce swiftly and precisely, this weapon is also believed to be infused with mystical power. This power depends on the skill of its smith, the materials chosen, and even the status of its wielder. Countless legends surround the mysterious kris, with some whispering that if mistreated, the blade can vanish without a trace. Yet for those truly in the know, the secret to crafting these powerful swords lies beyond our world. According to the legend of a family whose kris forging legacy stretches back 18 generations, the supreme kris must be forged from meteoric iron. This iron was sourced from a colossal meteorite that fell near the ancient Prambanan temple in the 18th century. Once in possession of this cosmic metal, master craftsmen would begin the painstaking process of transforming it into blades of otherworldly beauty and mysterious power. The high nickel content of meteoric iron creates swirling, hypnotic patterns on the blade's surface, while the kris's signature curves are shaped with seemingly impossible precision. It is said that a select handful of master artisans still work with the last fragments of this ancient meteorite, cooling molten iron with their tongues and molding it with their bare hands. Forging a kris from meteoric iron is not a task for the faint of heart. The metal must be meticulously folded dozens, sometimes even hundreds of times, each fold demanding absolute focus and flawless skill. This arduous process can take years, but the result is a masterpiece of weaponry that embodies an unparalleled union of beauty and supernatural power. What was discovered in Egypt shocked the whole world. Every time archaeological technology takes a leap forward, someone inevitably returns to the pyramids to see if the latest innovation will unlock any new breakthroughs. In 2015, a team of international scientists and architects conducted a survey of the Giza pyramid complex and uncovered deep-seated thermal anomalies within these ancient structures. They recorded higher than expected temperatures in 3 adjacent stones, located in a completely inaccessible area at the very bottom of the Great Pyramid. Although various explanations have been put forward, such as hidden voids, differences in building materials, or internal air currents, no one can say for certain what the true cause is. Similar anomalies were also discovered in the upper half of the Great Pyramid. This finding came about thanks to the research team's use of infrared thermography to scan the pyramids as they absorbed heat at sunrise, and then again as the limestone cooled during sunset. It is almost a certainty that there are still rooms and secret chambers inside the pyramids that we have yet to reach. But this raises a compelling question. Why would those chambers be warmer than the rest of the structure? Unfortunately, it looks like we may have to wait several more years before we have any real answers. There is a question that comes up time and again when people study the great works of ancient Egypt. How did the ancients manage to cut through massive, thick blocks of stone with an ease that seems almost equivalent to how we slice through butter today? Even the world's largest modern construction companies would have a hard time recreating Egypt's magnificent monuments. Yet we're asked to believe that the ancient Egyptians did it all using nothing but basic hand tools. That's a pretty tough pill to swallow. Maybe they once possessed some kind of incredibly powerful saws. The clearest evidence for this theory lies in the granite sarcophagus inside the King Jesis chamber of the Great Pyramid. The cut marks on the bottom of the sarcophagus could only have been made by a saw, and not just any saw, but one of enormous size. We can't be sure exactly what kind of saw teeth they used, but it's hard to dispute the evidence left behind by the saw itself. So, what happened to the ancient Egyptian stone cutting technology? And why haven't we ever found a single modern trace of it? We could make an entire video just about the mysteries swirling around the Great Pyramid of Giza. This structure has stood for more than 4,500 years, and to this day, we still don't truly understand how it was built. That fact alone is enough to earn it a spot on the list of history's greatest enigmas. But there's another mystery that only came to light in 2017. Using advanced scanning technology, archaeologists identified two large voids hidden within the pyramid structure, and no one knows for sure what's inside them. They might be nothing more than service tunnels used during construction, or they could be undiscovered tombs waiting in the darkness. There's a theory you've probably heard countless times before. In fact, it's been repeated so often that many people accept it as fact, even though the actual evidence is pretty thin. Back in the 1980s, the Egyptologist Robert Bauval claimed that the three pyramids at Giza were perfectly aligned with the three stars that make up Orion's belt in the night sky. He reinforced this argument in his 1995 book, The Orion Mystery, which went on to become a New York Times bestseller and firmly planted the idea in the public's imagination. The problem is, the whole concept is a bit misleading. You can't actually get the pyramids to line up with Orion's belt unless you invert one or the other. If the ancient Egyptians really wanted to reflect the stars' positions, you'd expect them to have arranged the pyramids in a way that didn't require such an inversion. Secondly, the three pyramids weren't built at the same time. There is no evidence to suggest that the third pyramid was even planned when the first was under construction. And third, the positions of stars in the sky change over thousands of years. The stars of Orion's belt today don't look the same as they would have 4,500 years ago. As impressive as the pyramids are today, they were even more dazzling when they were first completed. After more than 4,000 years exposed to the elements, their outer surfaces have become rough and weathered. But when they were newly built, the pyramids boasted an exterior shell so polished and radiant that they seemed almost to be made of glass. According to Egyptologist Jacqueline Williamson of Harvard University, the outer casing stones of the pyramids were meticulously polished using abrasive materials like fine sand, sandstone, and even brick to create an incredibly smooth finish. At midday, when the sun was at its highest, the pyramids would have glistened and sparkled as if they were glowing. Williamson is absolutely convinced by her findings, arguing that the precision and effort involved in polishing the stones prove the craftsmanship of the pyramid builders far exceeded anything we might have previously imagined. As for the fate of those gleaming outer layers, they gradually faded and crumbled away over time. However, some of the casing stones were stripped off centuries ago and repurposed for other construction projects, accelerating their decline even further. We know from Egyptian historical records that the Benben stone was once believed to possess supernatural powers. It was originally housed in the Temple of Ra at Heliopolis and was the very first place to greet the morning sun's rays each day. The original stone has long been lost to history, but it inspired the design of many statues and sculptures that still exist in Egypt today, including the capstones that once adorned the famous pyramids. The stone is thought to symbolize the phoenix, an important creature in Egyptian mythology, because of its power to conquer death and be reborn. Some historians believe that Benben represents the seed of the phoenix, since in the language used at the time the Temple of Ai was built, the word carried a meaning close to fertilization. According to one legend, Benben was the mound that rose from the chaotic waters of Nun when the great god Adam created the world. If you've ever heard references to the Stone of Destiny in folklore, those stories are actually about this mystical stone. There's a theory you've probably heard countless times before. In fact, it's been repeated so often that many people accept it as fact, even though the actual evidence is pretty thin. Back in the 1980s, The Egyptologist Robert Bauval claimed that the three pyramids at Giza were perfectly aligned with the three stars that make up Orion's belt in the night sky. He reinforced this argument in his 1995 book, The Orion Mystery, which went on to become a New York Times bestseller and firmly planted the idea in the public's imagination. The problem is, the whole concept is a bit misleading. You can't actually get the pyramids to line up with Orion's belt unless you invert one or the other. If the ancient Egyptians really wanted to reflect the stars' positions, you'd expect them to have arranged the pyramids in a way that didn't require such an inversion. Secondly, the three pyramids weren't built at the same time. There is no evidence to suggest that the third pyramid was even planned when the first was under construction. And third, the positions of stars in the sky change over thousands of years. The stars of Orion's belt today don't look the same as they would have 4,500 years ago. As impressive as the pyramids are today, they were even more dazzling when they were first completed. After more than 4,000 years exposed to the elements, their outer surfaces have become rough and weathered. But when they were newly built, the pyramids boasted an exterior shell so polished and radiant that they seemed almost to be made of glass. According to Egyptologist Jacqueline Williamson of Harvard University, the outer casing stones of the pyramids were meticulously polished using abrasive materials like fine sand, sandstone, and even brick to create an incredibly smooth finish. At midday, when the sun was at its highest, the pyramids would have glistened and sparkled as if they were glowing. Williamson is absolutely convinced by her findings, arguing that the precision and effort involved in polishing the stones prove the craftsmanship of the pyramid builders far exceeded anything we might have previously imagined. As for the fate of those gleaming outer layers, they gradually faded and crumbled away over time. However, some of the casing stones were stripped off centuries ago and repurposed for other construction projects, accelerating their decline even further. We know from Egyptian historical records that the Benben stone was once believed to possess supernatural powers. It was originally housed in the Temple of Ra at Heliopolis and was the very first place to greet the morning sun's rays each day. The original stone has long been lost to history, but it inspired the design of many statues and sculptures that still exist in Egypt today, including the capstones that once adorned the famous pyramids. The stone is thought to symbolize the phoenix, an important creature in Egyptian mythology, because of its power to conquer death and be reborn. Some historians believe that Benben represents the seed of the phoenix, since in the language used at the time the Temple of Ai was built, the word carried a meaning close to fertilization. According to one legend, Benben was the mound that rose from the chaotic waters of Nun when the great god Adam created the world. If you've ever heard references to the Stone of Destiny in folklore, those stories are actually about this mystical stone. In addition to the fields we've already mentioned, the ancient Egyptians were also far ahead of every other culture of their era when it came to art and craftsmanship. To prove it, just look at the 27 regal statues of Sekhmet, the lion-faced Egyptian goddess of war. These statues were discovered at the site of the Temple of Amenhotep, the third on the west bank of Luxor. Every single one is carved from black granite, a material that is notoriously difficult to work with, and surely must have been chosen for a special reason. Most of the statues stand over 6 feet tall, though there are a few smaller ones that show the goddess seated on a throne, holding the Egyptian symbol of life in her left hand. The temple itself is a massive complex covering nearly 4 million square feet, which is about the same as 65 American football fields. Archaeologists believe that most of the temple was destroyed by an earthquake around 3,200 years ago. Excavations are still ongoing at the site, so it's very possible that more statues and artifacts have yet to be uncovered. You probably wouldn't expect to find early Christian symbols among the countless ancient Egyptian relics. But what are we to make of a discovery announced in Egypt in September 2020? In the ancient city of Oxyrhynchus, archaeologists uncovered a tomb thought to belong to a writer or artist from the 6th century. Inside, they found a painting that many believe to be the oldest surviving depiction of Jesus. The painting is badly faded, but thanks to being covered with a thin layer of material, some of its details have been preserved from the harsh sunlight. It depicts a young man with curly hair, his hands raised as if giving a blessing. If this artifact can be confirmed as dating to the 6th century, it would belong to the earliest days of Christianity and the Coptic period. The wall where the painting was found is covered with ancient inscriptions that have yet to be translated. If one day those inscriptions can be deciphered, it's hoped they will confirm what researchers currently suspect about the painting. The tomb itself is now badly damaged and weathered with only a single main chamber and some worn steps remaining. So the fact that the painting survived it all is nearly miraculous. There are always important things you want to keep a spare of. Maybe a spare wallet, a backup phone, or a spare tire for your car. But what about a spare head? As strange as it sounds, that is actually one theory for why so many ancient Egyptian tombs contain sculpted human heads with distinct features, almost perfectly mimicking the faces of the deceased. The ancient Egyptians believed that the dead would be reborn in the afterlife once they had been buried. But if the departed suffered a serious head injury or lost their head, they would need another one to complete the rebirth. So far, 30 such reserve heads have been found, with the oldest dating back to the reign of Sneferu in 2613 BCE. While each head features a unique face, the hair is always cut close, and traces of vivid red paint can still be seen on many of them. By tradition, funerary statues were usually placed above ground, so the fact that these reserve heads were buried deep underground is particularly unusual. The spare head idea is just a theory, but right now it's the best explanation we have. These days, you're not allowed to climb the pyramids. But back in the late 19th century, there were no such rules in place. The British inventor and explorer Sir William Siemens once decided to scale the summit of the Great Pyramid. When he reached the top, he felt a tingling sensation in his fingertips that quickly spread throughout his hands. Just a few minutes later, as he raised a glass of celebratory wine and took a sip from a metal cup, he was instantly shocked the moment his lips touched the rim. Ever since then, rumors have swirled that the pyramid is somehow capable of generating energy. Beneath the Giza Plateau, there are underground water channels carrying high volumes of water. The movement of this water produces piezoelectricity, and that current might then be channeled up through the pyramid all the way to its tip. Many fringe theorists have suggested that the pyramids were actually ancient power plants. But as far as we know, the ancient Egyptians had no understanding of electricity whatsoever. It's hard to imagine that they ever intended to harness piezoelectric energy for their monumental works, even if they may have sensed some kind of mysterious force at play. Still, it's strange how well this system seems to operate. There's a popular theory that a fourth pyramid once stood on the Giza Plateau. For the longest time, no archaeological evidence could be found for this elusive pyramid. But perhaps the mysterious staircase recently uncovered is the first real sign of its existence. This staircase plunges deep into the desert floor and may once have belonged to the lost pyramid as basement. It's an astonishing feat of engineering. The stairs cut straight down through layers of limestone, opening up a hidden world beneath the plateau that nobody knew existed until 2018. Access to the site is tightly controlled because it sits on military land, but a handful of lucky archaeologists have been granted supervised entry to explore it. Amazingly, the lowest point of the underground chamber sits 125 feet beneath the surface, and the entire space is submerged in water. Below, you'll find meticulously carved niches in the rock, each one housing black basalt and granite sarcophagi. All of the sarcophagi have been opened, a clear sign that ancient tomb raiders broke in long ago. The ancient historian Herodotus once wrote that Egyptian priests created underground chambers during the construction of Memphis, and it appears the same thing happened at Giza. It's as if there's an entire secret city lying hidden beneath the plateau. Did the ancient Egyptians understand the basic principles of electric lighting? The answer is almost certainly no. But that still doesn't mean we've solved every mystery surrounding the Dendra relief. You can find this particular carving in the underground chamber of the Temple of Hathor at Dendra. Most people call it the Dendral light because the massive objects being held up by the figures in the relief really do look like giant light bulbs. In the middle of each one, there's something that resembles a filament, and at both ends, there are lines that look like electrical wires trailing out. For conspiracy theorists, this is yet another piece of evidence that the Egyptians possessed technology far ahead of their time. Egyptologists, however, believe that the carvings simply depict serpents being carried on lotus leaves. Most of us would tend to side with the researchers rather than the light bulb enthusiasts. But it is still worth pointing out that this exact arrangement of serpents and lotus leaves doesn't show up in any other known ancient Egyptian carvings. One of the strangest ancient Egyptian discoveries isn't even in Egypt anymore. It's currently on display at the National Museum of Antiquities in Leiden, where it's been kept since 1828. The discovery in question is a 10-foot-long mummified crocodile, inside which are the mummified remains of 47 baby crocodiles. The real surprise is that museum staff didn't realize those 47 baby crocodiles were there until 2016, when modern 3D imaging technology revealed their presence. To make things even stranger, scientists also discovered a smaller adult crocodile inside the larger one. This unique mummy was created about 2,500 years ago. Historians believe it was an offering to the Egyptian god Sobek, who was depicted with a human body and the head of a crocodile. As for what the creators of this rather bizarre mummy hoped to gain from Sobek, that remains a mystery. But there's no doubt they invested a huge amount of effort in it. Nabta Playa in Egypt is one of the harshest environments on Earth, so dry and hot that hardly anything can survive there now. Thousands of years ago, though, it was a different story, and that's when the site's mysterious stone circle was constructed. If you think Stonehenge in England is impressive, you should compare its age and complexity to the stones at Nabta Playa. When these stones were set in place 7,500 years ago, the area was home to a lake and grasslands, making it a suitable spot for tribes to raise livestock and settle down for a time. It was likely these early settlers who built the stone circle. Nabta Playa is one of the oldest known archaeoastronomical devices in the world. Its main purpose is to mark the summer solstice, but it also mirrors the arrangement of stars in the night sky. Some astrophysicists believe that 3 stones at the base of the circle represent Orion's belt, while the surrounding stones depict the constellation Orion as it would have appeared thousands of years ago. Few things excite archaeologists more than the discovery of a previously unknown king or queen. While such finds are less common than a century ago, they still occur. A prime example is the tomb of Queen Kenkaus III, discovered in late 2014. Before this find, historians had no idea a queen by that name ever existed. The tomb, excavated at Abusir, is estimated to be around 4,500 years old. It's possible Kenkaus was the wife of Pharaoh Neferfer, or perhaps his mother, since her tomb was found within his funerary complex. Although the exact relationship is uncertain, a strong connection between them is clear. Most likely, Queen Kenkaus III lived during the time Egypt's very first pyramids were being constructed, a period that remains one of history's greatest mysteries. The more tombs like this we find, the closer we get to unlocking the secrets of Egypt's pyramids. There is one ancient Egyptian discovery that everyone should know about: the Rosetta Stone. Not only is it one of the most important Egyptian finds of all time, but it also marks a major milestone in the entire history of archaeology. The inscriptions carved into this stone opened the door for us to understand the hieroglyphs of the ancient Egyptians and finally begin to unravel their mysterious culture. The stone was created by order of Ptolemy V in 196 BCE to assert his absolute authority. He had a grand proclamation inscribed in both Greek and ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs, ensuring that everyone would be able to read it. By the time the stone was rediscovered in 1799, people already knew how to read ancient Greek. Because the content was the same in both languages, scholars were able to decipher Egyptian hieroglyphs by comparing them to the Greek text. Today, this priceless artifact is housed in the British Museum, though a growing movement argues that it should be returned to Egypt. If you've spent most of your life loving someone, it's natural to want to be buried together after you're gone. Apparently, the ancient Egyptians sometimes took that idea even further. In April 2019, archaeologists at the Quesna Cemetery uncovered a 5,000-year-old limestone coffin containing two mummies, buried one on top of the other. The coffin is incredibly cramped, less than 2 meters long and less than 60 centimeters wide. Unfortunately, the mummies are in such poor condition that it is unlikely we'll ever learn much about their identities. Still, many believe there was a romantic connection between the two. There have been other discoveries of mummies stacked atop each other in burial pits, but in all those cases, each body had its own coffin. Here, for the first and only time, two people were placed together in a single narrow coffin. It might have been done simply to save space, but that explanation doesn't seem very likely. Another rare ancient Egyptian burial discovery was recorded in 2013 when archaeologists excavating the Akhetaten Cemetery uncovered two 3,300-year-old skeletons, both wearing copper alloy toe rings. This was the first and only time such rings have ever been found with the remains of ancient Egyptians. Experts believe the rings were worn while the individuals were still alive rather than being added as part of the burial process. However, it's still unclear whether these rings were simply decorative or held some magical significance. Scientific analysis revealed the identity of one of the two, a man who died around the age of 40 and who during his life suffered a severe fracture to his foot and femur. It's possible that in ancient times, people believed the ring possessed healing powers. However, no similar injury was found on the other skeleton. To fully understand the significance of these toe rings, we would need to find more skeletons or mummies with similar rings, but so far that hasn't happened. If you were a magician in ancient Egypt, you'd probably carry around something like this, so-called Handbook of Ritual Power. This 1,300-year-old manuscript is actually a handwritten codex in the Coptic language. It took researchers in Australia years to digitize and translate it, with the work only completed in late 2014. The book contains all kinds of spells and rituals, covering everything from love charms and success in business to cures for serious illnesses and even incantations, meant to enchant someone by driving nails into their doorframe. Egypt was a largely Christian country in the 7th and 8th centuries, which is reflected in the repeated references to Jesus found throughout the text. Elsewhere, though, there are passages mentioning Seth, who is described as both the living Christ and the third son of Adam and Eve. This is a sign that this codex may have belonged to the small but loyal group of Seth worshippers who existed within the early Christian communities of Egypt. The Mughal Empire, a once vast civilization that stretched across much of India, was ruled some 400 years ago by Emperor Jahangir. Under Jahangir's leadership, the empire flourished, becoming a land of immense wealth and prosperity, with a capital city rumored to be even larger than London. This golden era allowed Jahangir to amass some of the world's most dazzling treasures, but none was more remarkable than the meteoric blade. In April of 1621, an extraordinary event unfolded in the empire's eastern reaches. Villagers heard a thunderous roar and then witnessed a blinding flash streaking down to earth. When they arrived at the site, they found a scorched area with a radius of 25 feet, utterly devoid of life. Buried in the center was a piece of iron, nearly molten when unearthed, that was soon identified as a meteorite. Jahangir regarded the arrival of this meteorite as a gift from God and commanded that the iron be forged into two swords and a dagger. In his personal diary, Jahangir described one of these blades as shining brilliantly and possessing incredible toughness. Yet, this would be the last time the royal meteorite treasures were mentioned for centuries. As the Mughal Empire eventually fell and its riches vanished into history, it was not until the 1950s that an Iranian man living in Washington, D.C. claimed to possess Jahangir's long-lost dagger. The blade, about 10 inches in length, was adorned with precious metals and featured striking authentic engravings and patterns. However, testing methods in the 1970s could not provide a definitive answer, leaving many to question the dagger's authenticity. Advances in technology and analytical techniques have since allowed historians to assert with greater confidence that the dagger is indeed meteoric and very likely the royal treasure, once crafted for Emperor Jahangir. Xicheng, also known as the Lion City, has been dubbed the Atlantis of the East. The city now lies 40 meters beneath the surface of Qingdao Lake in Zhejiang Province, about 400 kilometers south of Shanghai. In 1959, the entire city was submerged when the Chinese government decided to construct the Shinan River hydroelectric dam, forcing over 3,000 residents to relocate, many of whom had lived there for generations. Originally built during the Tang Dynasty in the year 621, Xicheng is nearly 1,400 years old. What makes the city unique is that it featured 5 entrance gates, a rare deviation from traditional Chinese city planning, which typically included only 4. The ancient city also contains 265 archways intricately carved with images of lions, dragons, phoenixes, and historical inscriptions. Most of the decorative and architectural features date back to the Ming and Qing dynasties, with several stone structures still intact from as early as 1777, and the city walls retaining visible traces from the 16th century. In 2001, the Chinese government launched an underwater expedition to investigate what remained of the lost city. A decade later, in 2011, the Chinese edition of National Geographic published photos and illustrations reconstructing what Xicheng might have looked like in its prime. While the city isn't especially large in scale, much of its ruins still remain unmapped. Today, advanced diving tours to the sunken city take place from April to November each year, and there are even plans underway to construct an underwater tunnel to open Xicheng to the general public in the future. Though buried beneath cold, deep water, Xicheng has been naturally shielded from the elements and human interference. As a result, many of its ancient stone structures remain remarkably well preserved, turning it into a rare and priceless hidden gem of Chinese history. There is no question that India has long been home to some of the world's greatest minds. For example, the mathematician Aryabhata was the first to use 0 as a symbol, and the inventor Ajay Bhatt created the USB port that is now used everywhere. But did you know that perhaps the most astonishing invention of ancient India was the flying machines known as Vimana? Vimanas are often described as flying chariots, but at times they are also envisioned as palaces soaring through the sky. These marvelous inventions are frequently mentioned in Sanskrit epics and ancient Hindu texts. Many literary works recount stories of gods using these mysterious aircraft to wage battle against evil forces. These flying machines are said to have had a variety of different features, and their pilots needed specialized knowledge to operate them. Some texts even contain fairly detailed instructions for flying. There are descriptions of vimanas capable of traveling at tremendous speeds over short periods and even launching deadly attacks. Some machines were reportedly equipped with sound capturing devices that allowed the pilot to eavesdrop on enemy aircraft. So far, none of these ancient flying machines have ever been found, which has led many to believe that perhaps ancient Indians once encountered beings who possessed technology far more advanced than their own, possibly extraterrestrials or even time travelers. What do you think about this mystery? The legendary beginnings of Heracleion date back as far as the 12th century BCE, and the city is mentioned numerous times by ancient Greek historians. According to Herodotus, it was visited by Helen of Troy before the Trojan War began. It is also said to be the place where the divine hero Heracles first set foot in Africa. Known as Thonis by the Egyptians, Heracleion was originally built on a cluster of islands in the Nile River Delta and was intersected by a network of canals, complete with multiple harbors and anchorages. The city served as one of Egypt's main ports for international trade and tax collection. Around 150 BCE, a series of major earthquakes followed by tsunamis caused a 110 square kilometer section of the Nile Delta to collapse beneath the sea, taking the city of Heracleion with it. The city remained buried beneath the seafloor for thousands of years, covered in layers of sand and debris, making accidental discovery nearly impossible. However, in the early 2000s, a team of divers working off the coast of Egypt discovered a large stone beneath the seabed and brought it to the surface. It turned out to be a fragment of a statue of Hapi, the god of fertility, who once stood at the western mouth of the Nile as a guardian of Heracleion. The team continued their search and eventually unearthed 6 more fragments of the statue, along with a wealth of other treasures, including temple ruins, pottery shards, precious jewels, coins, oil lamps, ceremonial barges, and busts. Over the years, more and more artifacts have continued to surface. In 2021, a team from the European Institute for Underwater Archaeology, led by French marine archaeologist Franck Gaudio, uncovered new parts of the sunken city. These discoveries included the remains of a large tumulus, a Greek ceremonial area, and lavish offerings, suggesting that spectacular rituals must have once taken place there. The discovery of such artifacts within Heracleion points to the cultural interplay between the Phoenician and ancient Greek worlds and the pivotal role that trade played in binding the two together. Surveys and excavations are ongoing, revealing new insights into this sunken city with every passing year. In 2017, a group of divers discovered the ruins of an ancient fortress lying deep beneath the waters of Lake Van, the largest lake in Turkey. Beginning in 2007, the research team, led by underwater photographer Tahsin Ceylan, had conducted a series of expeditions primarily focused on studying microorganisms and investigating submerged archaeological sites within the lake. By 2016, they came across a strange structure near the harbor of Aduls, an ancient lakeside town. It wasn't until 2017, after further surveys, that the team confirmed it was the remains of a fortress with some of its walls reaching heights of up to 3 meters and stretching across an area of approximately 1 square kilometer. Archaeologists estimate that the fortress was built around 3,000 years ago and is believed to have belonged to the Iron Age civilization of Urartu. The fortress was constructed primarily using large cut stones, and several of these stone blocks bear engravings of lions, a common motif among the ancient Urartians. Previous research, particularly during the 1950s and 1960s, had already hinted at submerged structures in Lake Van. Notably, a 1958 paper by Charles Allen Burney and Lawson described a medieval castle that had reused stone blocks originally crafted by the Urartians. Today, archaeologists believe that further in-depth research is necessary to determine the precise structure and historical significance of this mysterious fortress. Beneath the cold, deep waters of Lake Van, the ruins of an ancient civilization continue to wait, holding silent clues to Turkey's distant and still unfolding past. Imagine a grand tomb, an architectural symphony blending the elegance of Greek design, the mysticism of Egyptian form, and the structural ingenuity of Lycian influence. Towering above the ancient city of Halicarnassus, this is the mausoleum at Halicarnassus. Not merely a burial place, but a powerful symbol of love, authority, and the cosmopolitan spirit of the ancient Hellenistic world. Built around 350 BCE, The mausoleum was commissioned for Mausolus, a satrap of the Persian Empire, and his sister wife, Artemisia II. Though intended as a tomb, it transcended its original purpose, leaving behind a legacy that would echo through human culture for millennia. Rising approximately 45 meters into the sky, this architectural marvel was the result of a collaboration between some of the most celebrated artists and architects of the time. Psadiros and Pythias of Priene were the masterminds behind its design, crafting a structure that featured a stepped pyramid, a colonnaded temple-like platform, and atop it all, a monumental sculpture of a four-horse chariot. Each side of the mausoleum served as a canvas for one of four legendary sculptors: Scopas, Leoscharis, Timotheus, and Bryaxis. Their combined artistic genius produced a tapestry of sculpted friezes and statues depicting mythological figures, heroic narratives, and divine archetypes, an unparalleled pinnacle of classical art. For over 1,500 years, the mausoleum stood as a testament to human ingenuity and artistic ambition. But time and nature would eventually take their toll. A series of devastating earthquakes reduced the once mighty structure to ruins, transforming it from a wonder of the ancient world into an archaeological relic. Rediscovered in the 19th century by British archaeologist Charles Thomas Newton, many of the tomb's surviving artifacts, including sculptures and reliefs, were transported to the British Museum, where they continue to offer a window into the artistic and cultural wealth of the classical age. The very term mausoleum, now commonly used to describe any grand and elaborate tomb, finds its origin in this awe-inspiring monument. Today, the site of the mausoleum at Halicarnassus remains a vital archaeological location, offering scholars and visitors alike invaluable insights into ancient engineering, cross-cultural exchange, and the enduring power of monumental art. For thousands of years, a mysterious relic lay silently beneath the Spanish earth, quietly guarding its ancient secrets. It wasn't until the 1920s that the Dolmen de Olmos, a monumental Neolithic tomb hidden among the hills of Andalusia and dating back nearly 5,000 years, finally revealed itself to the modern world. In 1922, Armando Dolmen, completely unaware of the historical treasure beneath his feet, embarked on a routine construction project on his property. What he uncovered, however, was a portal to a forgotten past. Realizing the immense significance of his find, a German archaeologist named Hugo Obermeier was invited to investigate this ancient mystery. By 1924, Obermeier had unearthed a haunting tableau: 8 human skeletons curled in fetal positions, each interred with ceremonial objects that seemed to whisper the long-lost stories of a vanished civilization. This extraordinary discovery sparked a large-scale excavation of the entire site. From the outside, the Dolmen de Olmos appeared to be no more than a humble earthen mound, but beneath its modest exterior lay a masterwork of ancient engineering, a passageway over 20 meters long, leading into a central chamber constructed with almost celestial precision. The builders of the Dolmen de Olmos demonstrated a profound understanding of the stars and the movement of the sun. The tunnel was aligned so that on the day of the spring equinox, the first rays of sunlight would pierce the darkness and illuminate the heart of the chamber, symbolizing rebirth for the departed souls resting within. Inside the dolmen, an archaeological treasure trove awaited. 64 massive engraved standing stones supported the corridor ceiling, and an array of artifacts, including knives, cups, and fossils, offered subtle clues about the lives of those who once erected this ancient monument. The engravings on the dolmen walls, ranging from simple geometric designs to intricate depictions of warriors, provide a tantalizing glimpse into the beliefs and daily practices of a lost civilization. Historians and scientists continue working to decode the connection between these carvings and the individuals buried there, while spectroscopy analyses have revealed traces of pigment, suggesting that these stone walls once formed a vivid gallery of prehistoric rock art. Another striking detail lies in the stones themselves, composed of a mix of materials, some of which are rare in the Andalusia region. This points to a wide-reaching trade network, hinting at the societal complexity and connectivity of this ancient culture. After 9 years of continuous restoration, the Dolmen de Olmos has been designated a national monument of Spain. Ongoing archaeological research continues to peel back the layers of time, promising to unveil more about the 8 individuals laid to rest here and the mysterious civilization to which they once belonged. For centuries, Japanese swordsmiths have earned worldwide renown for their unparalleled skill in forging exceptional blades. Among these masters was Okoshi Kinmune, who at the close of the 19th century received a most unusual commission from the famed samurai Inamoto Takayuki. The story goes that many years earlier, a farmer in the Hokuriku region had accidentally unearthed a strange stone while digging for sweet potatoes. He used it as a simple weight during the harvest, unaware that it was in fact a fragment of a meteorite. Eventually, government geologists confirmed its cosmic origins, and Inamoto Takayuki acquired the stone, entrusting Okoshi with the task of forging 5 swords from this otherworldly material. These blades would later become known as Ryu, the Comet Swords. Okoshi faced a daunting challenge in crafting the Ryu swords. The meteoric iron contained a much higher nickel content than traditional materials, making the forging process exponentially more difficult. To achieve the desired quality, the metal had to be heated to unusually high temperatures. Still, with unwavering dedication and masterful skill, Okoshi poured his heart and soul into the project, laboring for 3 years to complete these extraordinary swords. Inamoto Takayuki once claimed that the Ryu blades were exceptional cutting weapons, but military historians held a different view. The unique alloy composition made them less effective in combat compared to traditional samurai swords. Nevertheless, the Ryu swords remain mesmerizing works of art, each marked by distinctive tempering patterns that set them apart from all others. Some of the swords were gifted to powerful allies, while others found their way into private collections. Today, 4 of the 5 Ryu swords are housed in museums or universities. Historians continue to hope that one day the 5th and final sword will be discovered, completing this priceless collection. Another significant discovery, demonstrating the ironworking capabilities of Prairie Age civilizations, is that of 2 ancient Chinese axe heads dating back to around 1000 BCE. Believed to have been crafted during the Zhou dynasty, these 2 artifacts consist of a broad axe and a dagger axe. Both were unearthed in the early 1930s and are now displayed at the Smithsonian Institution. The broad axe features a bronze tongue and the rusted remains of an iron blade adorned with a few simple decorative patterns. The dagger axe, on the other hand, has a bronze blade that was once fitted with an iron tip, remnants of which are still attached. These pieces are prime examples of Bronze Age engineering in China, thanks to their combination of different metals and the use of the casting-on technique for joining them. Most notably, the iron blades of these weapons are meteoric in origin. While axes were not uncommon as weapons in China during this period, these 2 meteoric axe heads remain the only known examples of their kind, showcasing the remarkable skill of ancient Chinese craftsmen. Some scholars suggest that due to the extreme scarcity of iron at the time, the 2 axes were likely made for ceremonial purposes rather than practical use in battle. Today, though both axe heads have decayed and are nearly unrecognizable as weapons, they still stand as powerful evidence of humanity's earliest attempts at ironwork and our initial understanding of the unique properties of different metals. Located on the outskirts of Cusco, Peru, stands the monumental fortress complex of Sacsayhuaman. The Incas built this structure using dry stone wall techniques in the 15th century. At first glance, you might think there's nothing particularly special here, but if you look closer, you'll quickly realize the wonder of their construction methods. The stone walls of Sacsayhuaman were made from massive boulders weighing up to 200 tons each. Every stone was stacked on top of one another to form towering walls, with each edge cut and fitted so precisely that it is almost impossible to believe, given the technological limitations of their era. Experts estimate that it would have taken more than 20,000 people just to extract these stones from nearby quarries and transport them across 20 kilometers up the hills to the city of Cusco. Some suggest that the Incas might have painstakingly pounded and shaped each rock for countless hours until they achieved the exact form they needed. The entire site is regarded as both an architectural and historical marvel. Despite many years of research and countless attempts to uncover how the Incas managed to cut and assemble these stone walls, the answer remains a mystery to this day. About 20 kilometers east of Nanjing, China, on the slopes of Yanmen Shan Mountain, lies the Yangshan Quarry. This is considered one of the most mysterious sites in China, renowned for its colossal stone blocks. In 1405, Adi, the son of the Ming Emperor, ordered the construction of an enormous commemorative stele for the Ming Shaolin Mausoleum. He chose the massive stones from this quarry as building materials. However, during the process of cutting and transporting the stones, workers realized that the blocks they were extracting were far too large to ever complete the monument. Ultimately, the project was abandoned, leaving behind gigantic rocks with unfinished cut marks. What continues to baffle archaeologists is how people of the past believed they could cut and move stone blocks over 70 meters high and weighing more than 3,000 tons. For comparison, the largest monolith ever known in history is the Thunderstone in Russia, which weighs about 1,250 tons. Despite the failure of the Stele project, a great number of massive stones were still removed from the quarry. No one knows exactly how people of that era accomplished this feat. Some suggest that perhaps the workers were aided by something out of the ordinary. It is especially remarkable that although ancient Chinese were famous for meticulously recording everything, almost no documentation remains regarding this mysterious unfinished project. This elaborate clay disc is called the Phaistos disc, dating back to the Middle or Late Minoan Bronze Age, around 4,000 years ago. This mysterious artifact was discovered in 1908 at the Minoan Palace of Phaistos and ever since has continued to fascinate researchers. The process of crafting the disc itself is a mystery. Experts believe that ancient people used stamps or metal molds to imprint symbols onto the surface of the disc. After the designs were stamped, the disc was baked at a very high temperature, fusing the material and the symbols together. This method was extremely unusual, not appearing elsewhere until about 600 years ago, which means the Phaistos disc was far ahead of its time. Each symbol on the disc was individually stamped, implying that over 200 different metal molds had to be created. This has led researchers to believe that there must have been other discs produced, but so far, not a single similar disc has been found in the area. Moreover, no metal molds with such strange symbols have ever been discovered at the site. Many experts remain uncertain about the disc's true purpose. Some suggest it was an ancient typewriter, while others believe it contains a song, a poem, or some kind of ritual. The only thing we know for sure is that the disc originated on Crete and is written in a version of the ancient Minoan language dating from about 1850 to 1550 BCE. However, it may be a very long time before we can truly decipher the meaning behind those mysterious symbols. The Vikings were not only famous as fierce warriors, but were also known as remarkable seafarers. Recently, researchers discovered that the Vikings may have been aided by a mystical stone capable of revealing the sun's position regardless of cloud cover or darkness. This stone is called a solar stone or sunstone in ancient Norse legends, and for many years it was believed to be nothing more than a myth. But in 2010, a crystal was found in a shipwreck off the Channel Islands. This sunstone was made of calcite, a mineral capable of detecting sunlight even in overcast or foggy conditions. Thanks to the sunstone and the sun compass, The Vikings could navigate the ocean with extraordinary accuracy, even in darkness. Today, scientists can explain the properties behind this stone, but to people of the past, the sunstone was truly a magical object. Regarded as one of the most dangerous and destructive weapons ever created, Greek fire was an extremely secret incendiary compound whose formula was known to only a select few. This flamethrower-like weapon was once used by the Byzantine Empire to defeat their enemies. Even at sea, it was said that even underwater, this weapon could still set foes ablaze. Unsurprisingly, this weapon is credited as a decisive factor in the Byzantine success during naval battles. For this reason, the formula for this deadly substance was passed down only to a handful of people. Many have tried to recreate this weapon, but to this day, no one has managed to replicate Greek fire with the same terrifying effectiveness. Historical records state that the fire produced by this weapon could cling not only to wood, but also to human flesh, and it could not be extinguished with water, meaning it became even more dangerous in sea combat. Even more strangely, despite their enemies managing to discover some of the ingredients for Greek fire, they still could not reproduce it precisely. They tried various methods to determine its properties and manufacturing process, but none were successful. Modern researchers believe the secret lay in a petroleum-based liquid. However, the method for making Greek fire was never recorded, and perhaps this secret died, along with the fall of the Byzantine Empire. There are certainly countless mysterious inventions from the ancient world that we still cannot explain to this day. Which ancient technology impressed you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to check out the other fascinating videos showing up on your screen right now. And I'll see you in the next video. Take care, everyone.